This is a tank I've been wanting to build for a while, a shallow tank that's not too big and that will allow me to focus on all the small details. I'll be using organic potting soil as a base, covered by a thick layer of sand. This will make it very cheap and easy to house many plants in here. The options for hardscape are the large limestone rocks I am able to gather where I live. I want something that provides lots of pathways underwater and also towers out of the scape. So I chose hardscape number 2 and brushed it clean with some hot water. With my hardscape all cleaned and ready, I added it back into the tank, stacked it just how I wanted it to look, and then filled in some of the gaps in the back with some leftover sand just to make it look like it's been in there for a while. The main little feature for this tank will be this X-Wing fighter from Star Wars. I wanted this to look like an old crash landing in some sort of canyon. And now that the tank's full of water, I thought it looked quite good and I was tempted to just leave it like this. But in order to complete the ecosystem, let's throw some plants in here. Most of these are small and slow growers, which is good for the small size of the tank. These are all plants I was able to take from other fish tanks, which is something that is very nice to be able to do once you have been in this hobby for a while. And to support this tank, I'm adding this small clip-on light right on the glass of the tank, as well as a very small water pump that will help circulate the tank, and lastly a small heater just to keep this temp at the right levels. I decided to remove the foreground plants to leave space for the fish to swim and for shrimp to be able to walk around looking for food. Alright, and now it's time to add our first animals here into this tank, and it'll be this small group of blue dream shrimp. This happens to be the kind of shrimp that I've kept in my tanks for a long time, so I guess it's kind of like the house species for me. So all my tanks have blue shrimp. And now I just have to let these guys settle in for the next few weeks. Alright, and here is where I'll be keeping this tank, right here in my living room, next to my couch, which is actually a really nice viewing spot. And as you can see, I have some other tanks in my living room as well, and you are very welcome to check out the videos I have for those as well. A few weeks later, there are lots of good signs of tank health. There are baby shrimp swimming around everywhere, as well as very, very tiny little ostracods that you can only see if I zoom in, but they are covering the surfaces of the rocks and the glass and the surface of the water, so they are keeping this tank very clean. The new fish additions came in and I want to add them right away. These are both schools of tiny little fish. These are some pygmy corydoras and sparkling gouramis, both fish with big personalities, but as I found out, they're also great hiders. It was really nice to see more variety. All areas of the tank had more going on. The corydoras spent most of their time sifting through the sand, swimming in and out of the plants. And the gouramis fully used the rock to hide and became very familiar with every little hiding spot and cave in the rock, always popping out to see any movement outside of the tank. And the shrimp were just eating everything all day, all over the place, in a very classic shrimp way. At first I thought everything was getting along well in here, but as the gouramis settled in and put on a bit more size, they started hunting the shrimp for sport. And this eventually threw the tank off balance, which personally, I like a tank with lots of shrimp, so I decided to move the gourami fish out of the tank and into a larger home where they would be just fine with each other. A few months later, the shrimp colony was back with strong numbers, and the plants in the tank grew in as well, and I thought it was time for a big trim. Now, the floating plants completely covered the surface of the tank, and the plants down at the bottom mostly stayed the same size. So I thought it would be good to balance out the plants by removing so many of the floaters and adding in some carpeting plants. The really nice thing about the size of this tank is how easy it is to maintain it. Water changes are very quick, and keeping it clean like this is really easy since there's not a lot of space in here. So as I fill the tank back up, I'm going to be using Monte Carlo as my carpeting plant, and I've been able to keep this plant alive in my other tanks, but I haven't been able to get the carpet look going yet. So in this tank, I'll be trimming it more often in hopes that it'll cause it to spread out better. And here is how the tank is looking after getting everything trimmed and planted. And one mistake I made was to try and feed these shrimp banana pieces, and this was just for one of my short videos that I made, and I think the shrimp really enjoyed eating the banana, but weirdly enough, the banana clouded the tank and the water very dramatically. And so the only solution to this was to completely, drain the water. But in order to not completely empty it, I was pumping in water while pumping out the cloudy water on the other side until all of the water seemed to be replaced, or at least cleaner. And that's that's what fixed it. But yeah, just a piece of advice: don't try feeding them bananas. Alright, and that is it for this video. As you can see, the shrimp are doing quite better now, but hopefully I'll make an update on this in a couple months just to show how everything grew in.